Hello everyone, thank you for joining me on this new Techtonica video. Today we're going to have go on a tour of my factory built for 0.1.1. This was built entirely after the patch, and I just want to go over what it looks like, some of the limitations that I'm running into, and basically what the state of the game is right now once you've built everything that you can. Thanks for joining me. Please give me a like and a subscribe. It's going to help me grow the channel. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let's get to it. I'm basically finished with this area, and I still have plenty of resources here. So I'm not sure it necessarily makes sense right now to start here. But if they ever speed up the rate at which you consume these nodes, then I think you're going to want to have a setup where you're taking advantage of everything. As you can see, most of the belts here are Mark 1 belts because this was set up when I initially started the base. I think initially I only had maybe 3 smelters, and I just kind of expanded from there, and I built a second floor. And this was my first research tower. You can see it's all pink. And I built this to allow me to dig out the top section, which I stopped doing after a while. But yeah, the research tower. I actually kind of like how this looks in the map. It's kind of a cool look. Anyhow, then we have copper. I found that I was using copper at a rate far lower than I was using the steel, so I have way more steel manufacturing than I do copper. And in fact, I have what 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7 miners for iron, and only 3 for copper. Although mind you, I did upgrade these to Mark II because eventually I was getting a little. I did have a little bit of a copper shortfall, but yeah. So I also have these packs, which is probably overkill, but I just wanted to have a source for bars for myself. So every so often I'll just come in here, top myself off with some bars. And so, I mean, because of where I'm taking it, I'm basically taking half of the distribution of the production, because that splits in half, basically, right? So, yeah, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it, but I was being a little bit lazy, and it worked fine. My production's high enough that it didn't make that much of a difference. Then this area is where I started producing some of the basic stuff that I needed initially. For example, this is where I was storing belts, and eventually I added one machine to make the Mark II belts, and I thought I would eventually add a few more machines when you start needing these for upgrading Victor, but it turned out that because I had this box here and I had stored so many things in there, I actually just never needed to build another secondary one because I had way more belts than I needed, as you can see. Then over here, that's for the belts. And then over here, I'm making my research. I have 2 machines. I've upgraded them, but initially it was just the normal think cores, or rather Mark 1s. And then I'm also making power floors because I regularly take a few thousand of these. In fact, I'm carrying 2,400 now. So yeah, that was my super early initial assembly set. I thought again that I might end up upgrading this if I needed more, and actually laying it out in a more sensible manner. But it was just never necessary, so I didn't do it. Yeah. Here we have a collection of the organic goods. I think I already went over threshers in a previous video, so if you want to watch that, I will link it. But yeah, like it turns out you don't necessarily need that many of these machines again. These belts are kind of empty because I am just not using the stems at a super huge rate, even though I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 threshers eating up the stems. I am not using the whatever those are called, I forget. I'm just not using that as much as I could, I suppose. And that's because over here I am making the casings. And again, room to expand. But at this point, I have finished with production, and I don't really need to. Although I might still finish it out at some point. I think it's hanging out there for. So yeah, I mean, if we get Mark III belts, then maybe it'll make sense. I mean, part of the reason I haven't upgraded it is because the belts are overloaded as is. So yeah, this was an extraneous belt that I built just so that I could build this up here. You can see this belt's actually going over top of the generators. So yeah, let's go over that part of the base. Yeah, let's go do that. So power generation. I basically have this giant line of water wheels. It goes all across the water where it was legal. And then as soon as there's no more water that I can put water wheels in a line with, then I switched over to having generators. I could replace all of these Mark I generators with Mark II generators. Actually, no, I couldn't because they use more torque. So, yeah, I would have to get rid of some probably. But I mean, the Mark II generators make so much more power than the Mark Is that you could do that. But I am generating far more power than I'm using in any case. So I haven't upgraded everything there. And there's obviously way more room for putting in more power, so if we end up needing more power down the line, I can add a lot more generators here, more water wheels. And I built everything off of with enough height so that we could maneuver in here comfortably and build more generators if I needed to. I didn't want to use up the water real estate as much as possible, so that I could build more power if needed. So on top of that is where I started building up my research. Initially, I thought I would do the same thing that I had done on the pink, and so I built this tower. But it quickly became apparent to me that I was going to spend a lot of time digging up, and I had the room to build sideways, and it seemed a little more efficient for me. It seemed a little bit more efficient to me to just build additional towers. So that's what I did. I just basically have a couple of core composers that I've been using and moving them around that I've built up the bottom. I had kind of wanted to connect these a little bit, but couldn't quite. It was very difficult to snap the core composer in a way that made it work perfectly. Um, and part of the reason for that is because of how the core composer snaps. It's kind of all over the place. It's like up here first, and then like it does these big jumps. Um, for here, so I can. Is perfect. You got a lot of stuff around it, which I did have belts and such, so it keeps snapping weird. But and also it's so big, it's hard to see the edge. But yeah, they're pretty close. Looks like a giant mass. And then over here, I had more mining for manufacturing later. You can see that here I'm really trying to distribute things a little more evenly. I'm trying to maximize the load on these carrying belts, and trying to even out the rate at which things are produced. But again, I didn't really have the use for, like, once I built this, I thought, okay, I'm gonna be building a lot of stuff with steel, and then it just, I built these guys, but didn't need anything else really, so that was a little bit weird. And then over here, I'm doing the copper side. It's basically the same thing. It's just the opposite, except I went up this one another level because I just didn't want to dig out sideways that much. And this is where I have my power. By the way, on the last tier here, so on this tier, you need something, I forget exactly, but you need something like 2,000 megawatts, 2,400 megawatts to get up to this tier. And then Mol 2 tier, you need 20,000. And to get to 20,000 from 2,000, I initially had this floor of accumulators, which is, it's the original bank that you find, and then I just added to it. I just made this bigger, basically, and I filled it up entirely. And I think I started the second floor when we started to get to the 2000s. There's a little more room even for some additional ones here. But then when you need to get to 20,000, I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here I got to 20,000. So I had to multiply my production of power or accumulation of power by quite a bit, just to do that last year. It wasn't that interesting or fun to do it, really. I mean, it was just kind of tedious, right? I mean, I just kept adding floors and floors and floors. And also the other thing that makes it feel weird is that, at least right now, I don't have a use for that power. There's like, I mean, I'm not, it's just constant, right? I'm not really using it. Part of it for sure is that monorails are broken right now. So I have one monorail that I used and to ferry resources to the freight elevator, which we will look at in a little bit. But that's it. I didn't have any other drains to the accumulators, and so it's a little bit that tier feels a little bit weird. I understand it's early access, and we'll get more later, I'm sure. In fact, I have a theory about what's going to happen. But in any case, that is that. So over on this side, I have the Atlantum. Atlantum. Atlantum ore manufacturing. The only awkward thing about this one is that I had hoped initially that I was going to be making enough of the sandstone to feed my shiver spine, I guess, the production, but I just wasn't making enough, so I had to make it up a little bit with some mining. Yeah, so I think right now what's happening is that this is all backed up because I'm mining too much probably, and so I'm not producing enough the green extract. That's why this factory is not producing right now, but also I have a ton of this stuff. I don't need more really, so yeah. Yeah, over here, by the way, I started the tunnel to try to get resources from one place to the other, and then I ran into this vein, and I was like, oh, I might want to use that later, so I don't want to clutter this up with belts. So I moved it over here, and this is my transport hub. I am basically routing things from back here in the factory to over there, for the most part. I think there's actually a couple of things that run from here back there, but for the most part it goes the other way. Yeah, and here is my sandstone mine. Yeah, I may have a little overboard there. I don't think I need that much anymore. So this is going all down there. Right. So I'm using it to make the biobricks, the biofuel, and it turns out, by the way, which I was a little bit surprised by. I thought I was gonna need to expand this way more, but with just 2 of the Mark Ones being close to 100%, I was making way more fuel than I needed. Even with Mark One belts moving it, the rate of consumption of the fuel is just not that high. These will last you a long time, especially once you upgrade the uh, uh, the amount of energy you get out of them. So they last quite a while. So with just 2, I was able to fuel my entire factory forever, which was kind of nice. Oh, this is my very old initial, because we are over here. We're right next to Lima. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so I mean, the mold makes digging relatively easy compared to some other games. I was able to easily expand. In fact, this area I ended up never using. Planning expansions of things that I just never needed. I do think that one of the things that makes the game a little bit shorter than maybe it could be is there aren't that many super complicated manufacturing. Like this is about as complex as it gets, right? And I actually am not sure that you could have anything. I mean, we don't have a machine really right now that can do a 4-input assembly, right? Or that requires it. I mean, these machines are probably it's small to support 4 inputs. I mean, you could do it, but it would be a slightly awkward. You can see that here I've like stacked my belts to make it a little bit easier to feed things machines. You do require a little bit of room to do it, but it's not super bad. Yeah. Making fans. And the blue research. I do know this actually could be expanded quite a bit. Because towards the end of the game, like I found that by the time I unlocked the last year, even though it took me a while to build enough power to actually go up here to Molchu, the rate at which, with just 2 factories and 2 pink factories, the rate at which I'm making these is actually not high enough. So I could have probably expanded this. I should have probably expanded this, what I'm saying. But the main reason I didn't really is because a little bit lazy. Honestly, it's like by the time you get here, these improvements, there's nothing you have to have, right? These are all just improvements on things that you already have. So there is no real incentive to unlock these because the game basically ends at this point anyways. Okay, so let's just go over to the next area over. Okay, so I am mining my Atlantum from the area by the crashed ship. You can also get it from the unknown entity area. There's a lot of, but you don't really. I mean, again, you just don't need it. Let's just jump down here. Bring ourselves our way to right elevator. And this area I ended up never using because I built everything in one massive factory at the other end. So I kept wanting to come up here and just steal the power, but it wasn't totally necessary. Alright. So, because of the bug with power and monorails, I built up accumulators here entirely so that I could power the freight elevator and also use the monorail without having to worry too much about the bug where it doesn't work. So yeah, there's my power generation, and power storage, and then I use that guy to feed resources into the monorail, to the freight elevator. Now keep in mind, there is a bug right now where if you if you automatically feed resources into the elevator using trying to say the if you use inserters, that's the part I'm looking for, to feed things into the right elevator, it's fine, but if it's at the very end, it's going to feed extra resources in, because uh, it might, like, there might be two inserters that are inserting resources at the same time. It feels like there's a bug there, um, where, like, if that happens, you will unlock the elevator here, but the doors won't open. So what you have to do is you have to take all your inserters out before you get to the very end, and just manually put the things in here. And when I did that, it worked. I had to go back to an old save, like a slightly older save, to make that work. But yeah, that was it was a bit of a problem. And that is it for this factory. I have an idea of what's going to happen next, and I think I'm going to make a video about it later this week. So look forward to that. If you're still watching, thanks a lot for watching, and please like and subscribe so that I can grow the channel. See you guys in the next one.